She had 10 seconds to make a choice: let a good man die or destroy her entire life with a single kiss. In a ballroom packed with Atlanta's most powerful elite, Gloria Washington grabbed the billionaire's face and did the unthinkable. What happened next left everyone speechless. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe and let us know in the comment section where you are watching from so we can keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. Gloria Washington's world collapsed on a Tuesday afternoon. The factory where she'd worked for 8 years, where she'd climbed from assembly line worker to shift supervisor, was closing its doors forever. Jobs shipped overseas. American dreams sold to the lowest bidder. At 30 years old, with a diabetic mother, a brother in community college, and a teenage sister all depending on her paycheck, Gloria was suddenly, devastatingly unemployed. 3 months of rejection letters later, she found herself standing in the marble foyer of a Buckhead mansion that could fit her entire apartment building inside it. The offer was humiliating: housemaid for the Thompson family. Daniel Thompson, 45, silver-haired tech billionaire worth more than some small countries, seemed kind enough when they met. Apologetic, even. But his wife, Jenny, she looked at Gloria the way you'd look at furniture. "You'll do," Jenny said, her voice dripping with casual cruelty that Gloria would come to know intimately. The job paid enough to cover her mother's insulin and keep her siblings fed. So Gloria swallowed her pride, took off her supervisor badge, and put on a maid's uniform. She told herself it was temporary, just until something better came along. She had no idea that 3 weeks later, while dusting Daniel's office, she'd accidentally activate a voice recorder and overhear Jenny and her secret lover plotting to murder Daniel at an upcoming charity gala. Poisoned heart medication. A perfectly staged widow narrative. A billionaire's empire up for grabs. Gloria had the truth burning in her mind and absolutely no way to prove it. Who would believe a black maid over a wealthy white socialite? And when the night of the gala arrived, with Daniel seconds away from swallowing poison, Gloria had one last option. One desperate, reputation-destroying act that would either save his life or destroy hers forever. Gloria Washington stood outside the factory gates one last time, her supervisor badge still clipped to her uniform shirt like a cruel joke. 8 years. 8 years of early shifts, overtime, and climbing from the assembly line to management. Now the gates were chained shut, padlocked with a corporate efficiency that matched the coldness of the closure notice. Restructuring, they'd called it. The polite word for shipping American jobs to countries where labor was cheap and workers were cheaper. At 30 years old, Gloria was suddenly, devastatingly unemployed. And she wasn't just supporting herself. Her mother's diabetes required insulin that cost more than rent. Her brother Marcus was halfway through community college, finally chasing the engineering degree he deserved. And her baby sister Keisha, 16 and brilliant, needed to finish high school without worrying where her next meal was coming from. The rejection emails came in waves: overqualified, underqualified, not the right cultural fit. That last one made her laugh bitterly. She knew what cultural fit meant. 3 months later, sitting across from an employment agency counselor, Gloria heard the words that made her stomach drop. "There's a housekeeping position, wealthy family in Buckhead. The pay is substantial." Housemaid after being a supervisor, after everything she'd worked for. But her mother's insulin prescription was sitting unfilled at the pharmacy. Marcus's tuition payment was 2 weeks overdue. Keisha needed new shoes. Her soles had holes worn through. So Gloria found herself standing in a mansion foyer that could swallow her entire apartment building, facing Daniel Thompson. 45, silver hair, tired blue eyes that suggested loneliness money couldn't cure. He seemed almost apologetic during the interview. "I appreciate you considering this position," he said, extending his hand. "I hope you'll find the work." "Shall do." Jenny Thompson descended the curved staircase like a fashion magazine come to life, blonde, polished, dripping in casual cruelty. She barely glanced at Gloria before turning to her husband. "Daniel, I have my spa appointment. Handle the paperwork." Gloria thought of her mother, her siblings, the unpaid bills stacked on her kitchen table. "When do I start?" she asked, swallowing every ounce of pride she had left. She didn't know that walking through these mansion doors would soon make her choose between her family's survival and a stranger's life. The Thompson estate was obscene in its wealth. 10,000 square feet of floor-to-ceiling glass, Italian marble, and the kind of southern grandeur that whispered old money, even though Daniel had built his fortune in Silicon Valley. The chandelier in the entrance hall probably cost more than Gloria would earn in 5 years. Her quarters were a small room off the kitchen, comfortable enough, with a bed, dresser, and a window overlooking the manicured gardens. But the location said everything about her place in this world. Separate, apart, help. Daniel Thompson surprised her, though. For a billionaire, he was almost painfully humble. She'd find him in the kitchen at dawn making his own coffee, embarrassed when she offered to do it. He always said please and thank you, looked her in the eye when he spoke. But Gloria noticed other things too. The sadness that clouded his face when Jenny breezed past him without acknowledgement. The way he'd try to share something about his work over dinner, only to have his wife cut him off with a dismissive, "God, Daniel, no one cares about your boring tech talk." He'd go quiet then, retreating into himself like a man who'd learned that his words didn't matter in his own home. Jenny Thompson was something else entirely. A former Atlanta debutante who'd married money and wielded cruelty like it was a designer accessory. Nothing Gloria did was ever right. "Gloria, these floors are streaked. Do them again." "Gloria, why does this taste like you cooked it?" "Oh wait, you did." The criticism was constant, cutting, designed to remind Gloria exactly where she stood in the hierarchy of this household. It was Miss Ruth who finally pulled her aside one afternoon. The elderly black housekeeper had worked for wealthy white families for 40 years, and her weathered hands and knowing eyes had seen everything. "Baby," Miss Ruth said quietly as they folded linens together, "I've watched 3 maids come and go in 2 years. Mrs. Thompson always finds a reason. Always. Watch yourself." "What happened to them?" Gloria asked. Miss Ruth's expression darkened. "One got accused of stealing, another of being inappropriate with Mr. Thompson. All lies, but who's gonna believe the help over her?" She touched Gloria's arm gently. "This house may look like a dream, but it's a trap, and right now, sugar, you're caught inside it." That night, lying in her small room, Gloria understood the truth. This beautiful mansion was a prison, and she had no idea how to escape. Gloria ran her microfiber cloth across Daniel's mahogany desk, the afternoon sun casting long shadows through the office windows. Her elbow caught something sleek and metallic, a device she'd assumed was just another expensive decoration in a house full of them. A small red light blinked on. Her finger hovered over what looked like a stop button when voices suddenly filled the quiet room, crystal clear and chilling. "Yes, Blake, he'll take his heart medication right after the gala speech. He always does. The stress triggers his angina." Jenny's voice, breathy, excited in a way Gloria had never heard. A man responded, smooth and calculating, "And you replaced all his pills." "Every single one." Jenny's laugh was light, almost giddy. "They look identical, but the digitalis I added will cause a massive heart attack within an hour. It'll look completely natural, the stress, his age, his condition. The perfect widow narrative." Gloria's hand flew to her mouth, her cloth dropping to the floor. Blake Morrison. She'd heard that name before, Daniel's former business partner, forced out years ago in some kind of scandal. And now he was helping Jenny plan murder. By midnight, I'll be the grieving widow of a billionaire, Jenny continued, her voice thick with anticipation. And we'll finally have everything we deserve. The recording clicked off. Gloria stood frozen in the sudden silence, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. The truth burned in her hands like hot coals, but there was absolutely nowhere to take it. She couldn't take the recorder. Jenny would notice it missing immediately. She couldn't go to the police. What would she say? I accidentally turned on a recorder and heard a conversation. They'd want proof. She had none. She couldn't warn Daniel, a black maid accusing a white billionaire's wife of murder. She could already hear Jenny's response. That woman is lying because I criticized her work. She's jealous, delusional, trying to break up my marriage. Gloria looked down at her trembling hands. She knew the truth, and she was completely, utterly powerless to stop what was coming. Gloria spent the next 2 days living in a waking nightmare. She tried approaching Daniel twice. The first time she found him in the hallway reviewing documents. "Mr. Thompson, I need to," but the words shriveled in her throat. How could she say it? "Your wife is planning to poison you." He'd think she was insane. Or worse, he'd think she was trying to manipulate him. The second attempt was in the garden. Daniel was checking his roses, peaceful and unaware. Gloria opened her mouth, but all she could hear was Jenny's inevitable defense echoing in her head. "That maid is lying because I criticized her work. She's jealous, trying to cause trouble." Every stereotype crashed down on her at once. The scheming black woman, the jealous employee, the gold digger trying to break up a wealthy white couple's marriage. Who would believe her? She thought about the police, spent an entire sleepless night rehearsing what she'd say, but every scenario ended the same way. I accidentally turned on a recorder and heard a conversation. They'd ask for proof. She had none. They'd ask why she didn't report it immediately. What could she say? That she was terrified. And if Jenny found out Gloria was making accusations, she'd be fired on the spot, blacklisted across every wealthy household in Atlanta. Her mother's insulin, her brother's tuition, her sister's future, all gone. At night, Gloria lay in her small room off the kitchen, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the impossible weight of it all. Daniel had been kind to her. In a house where his own wife treated him like an inconvenience, he treated Gloria like a human being, said please and thank you, asked about her family, actually listened to her answers. But saving him could destroy everything she had left. The gala was in 3 days. 72 hours until Daniel Thompson took poison disguised as his heart medication. 72 hours to find her voice in a world that had spent 30 years teaching her that women who looked like her, in positions like hers, didn't get to be heard. Time was running out, and she was paralyzed by her own powerlessness. 2 days before the gala, Gloria was smoothing fresh linens across the master bed when Jenny's voice drifted from the adjoining bathroom. "Blake, don't worry, everything's set." Gloria froze, her hands gripping the duvet. "I just confirmed with the event planner. Daniel's giving the keynote at 8 p.m. He'll take his medication right after like clockwork." A pause, then Jenny's voice turned silky with satisfaction. "Yes, I have his pills ready. He'll never suspect a thing." Gloria's heart hammered against her ribs. Jenny's voice dropped to a whisper, almost giddy with anticipation. "By this time tomorrow night, Daniel Thompson will be dead and we'll be free. Finally free." The pillowcase slipped from Gloria's trembling hands and hit the floor. That night she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She lay in the darkness, seeing it over and over, Daniel collapsing on stage in front of hundreds of people, everyone rushing forward, cameras flashing, and no one knowing he'd been murdered in plain sight. She thought about calling in sick the next day, not being there to witness it, but that felt like the worst kind of cowardice. The morning of the gala arrived bright and unseasonably warm. the kind of beautiful Atlanta day that mocked the darkness Gloria carried inside. She helped prepare the mansion for the post-event reception, arranging flowers she could barely see through her anxiety. She watched Jenny descend the staircase in a stunning red gown, every inch the perfect wife. Daniel met her at the bottom, and Jenny kissed his cheek for the photographer they'd hired. It was all performance, a final act before murder. And Gloria was the only person in the world who knew it. As their car pulled away toward the Fox Theater, Gloria stood on the mansion steps, her decision crystallizing. She couldn't stop the gala, but she could be there. Miss Ruth found her in the kitchen 20 minutes later. "Baby, what's wrong?" "I need to get into that gala tonight," Gloria said. "Can you help me?" The older woman studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Service staff uniform, I know somebody." "You sure about this, baby?" Gloria's jaw set with determination she didn't quite feel. "I have to try something." The Fox Theater was a palace of velvet and gold, dripping with old Atlanta money and new tech wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across designer gowns and $1,000 tuxedos. Gloria moved through the shadows in her black service uniform, a tray of champagne flutes balanced on her palm. People took glasses without looking at her face, without seeing her at all. Her heart hammered with every passing minute. She kept Daniel in her sight, tall and distinguished in his tuxedo, silver hair perfectly styled, moving through the crowd with the easy confidence of a man who belonged. Governors shook his hand. CEOs pulled him aside for quick conversations. Jenny clung to his arm throughout, radiant in her red gown, playing the devoted wife to perfection. Radiant and deadly. At 8 p.m. exactly, Daniel took the stage. His speech was about innovation, opportunity, giving back to the community that had given him so much. His voice was strong and clear, carrying across the packed theater. But Gloria noticed him touch his chest twice, subtle movements most people would miss. His heart condition, the stress was getting to him. When he finished to thunderous applause, he stepped off stage, smiling and waving. Then Gloria saw it, his hand reaching into his jacket pocket, pulling out the small pill bottle. This was it. The moment. He was about to swallow poison. Gloria moved without thinking. She pushed through the crowd, her service uniform the only thing keeping security from stopping her. "Mr. Thompson." She grabbed his arm just as he was unscrewing the cap. He looked startled, confused. "Gloria, what are you?" No time for words. No time for explanations that wouldn't be believed anyway. She did the only thing she could think of that would shock him enough to drop that bottle. Gloria grabbed his face with both hands and kissed him. Hard, desperate, in front of hundreds of Atlanta's most powerful people. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Camera flashes exploded. Someone screamed. The pill bottle clattered to the marble floor, white tablets scattering across the polished stone like fallen stars. Daniel pushed her away, his face a mixture of shock and fury. But he was alive. And the poison was on the floor. Daniel pushed her away, his face twisted with shock and fury. "What the hell are you doing?" Before Gloria could speak, Jenny was there, shrieking like a wounded animal. "You disgusting, how dare you assault my husband?" Her voice carried across the stunned, silent ballroom. "Security, get her away from him." They descended on Gloria like a pack. Jenny was in full performance mode now, sobbing, clutching Daniel's arm, shouting about that woman with perfectly calculated hysteria. She attacked him. "I want her arrested. Call the police." The crowd pressed closer, a sea of shocked faces and raised phones. Everyone recording, everyone watching. The whispers started immediately, cutting and cruel. Gloria didn't resist as security grabbed her arms. She looked back once, at the scattered white pills on the marble floor, at Daniel's confused, angry face. She'd done it. He hadn't taken the poison. As they shoved her into a service hallway, away from the cameras and the crowd, she heard Jenny's voice one last time, venomous and victorious. I want her prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. She tried to seduce my husband in public. The police car was cold. Gloria sat in the back seat in numb silence, her hands cuffed, watching Atlanta's glittering skyline blur past the window. She'd sacrificed everything: her job, her reputation, her dignity. By morning, the video would be everywhere. Black maid kisses billionaire at charity gala. Her family would be humiliated. She'd never work in Atlanta again. The stereotypes she'd feared most would be plastered across every screen in America. But Daniel Thompson was alive. At the station, they put her in a holding cell. Gloria sat on the metal bench, exhausted but strangely at peace. She'd made her choice. She could live with the consequences. Hours later, a detective opened the door. "Come with me." He led her to an interrogation room, stark and cold under fluorescent lights. And there was Daniel, sitting across the metal table, his tuxedo jacket gone, his expression unreadable. He studied her for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice quiet and dangerously controlled. "Start talking, and it better be the truth." Gloria told him everything. The voice recorder in his office. Jenny's voice, breathy and excited, planning murder with Blake Morrison. The digitalis mixed into his heart medication. Her desperate, impossible choice to stop him the only way she could think of. "I know how this looks," she said, her voice steady despite bone-deep exhaustion. "A black maid kissing a white billionaire. Everyone will think I'm lying, that I'm some kind of—" "Stop," Daniel held up a hand. His expression had shifted from anger to something else entirely. Troubled, uncertain, almost apologetic. After what happened, I kept the pills that fell. I don't know why." He leaned forward, studying her face. "Something about the way you looked at me in that moment, it wasn't desire. It was terror." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside were several white tablets, innocuous and deadly. "I had my personal physician run an emergency analysis on these while you were being processed." Daniel met her eyes, and she saw the shock still lingering there. "Gloria, they're laced with enough digitalis to kill me within an hour." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You were telling the truth." The relief that flooded through Gloria was so powerful her knees buckled. She gripped the edge of the table to stay upright, tears burning hot behind her eyes. He believed her. "I need your help," Daniel continued, and now his voice carried a cold, controlled fury that reminded Gloria he hadn't built a billion-dollar empire by being soft. "If I confront Jenny now, she'll claim she didn't know. That Blake must have switched them without her knowledge. She'll play the victim." He stood, packing the small interrogation room like a caged predator. "I need proof of her intent, recorded evidence that shows she knew exactly what she was doing." He turned back to Gloria. "Will you help me get it?" Gloria thought about Jenny's cruel smiles, her casual cruelty, her cold-blooded laugh on that recording. She thought about the price she'd already paid tonight. And she thought about justice. "Yes," Gloria said, lifting her chin. "Tell me what you need." Together, they began to craft a plan. The next morning, news broke across Atlanta. Daniel Thompson had suffered a heart attack at the Heritage Foundation Gala and was in critical condition. It was a lie, carefully coordinated with the hospital and police. At the estate, Jenny's mask slipped the moment she thought she was alone. Gloria, wearing a wire provided by detectives, served breakfast with trembling hands. "Such a tragedy, Mrs. Thompson." "Yes," Jenny said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Such a terrible shock." But the moment Gloria left the dining room, Jenny pulled out her phone. "Blake, it worked." Her voice was giddy, triumphant. "He collapsed last night. The doctors say his prognosis is poor." She actually laughed, cold and delighted. We did it. By next week, I'll control everything. The wire captured every word. An hour later, detectives arrived with a warrant. Jenny's face went sheet white when she saw Daniel walk in behind them, very much alive, his expression carved from ice. Disappointed, darling. She was arrested on the spot. Blake Morrison was picked up simultaneously across town. The charges: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder. As Jenny was led away in handcuffs, screaming about her lawyers and her rights, Daniel turned to Gloria. All charges against her had been dropped, but the video of that kiss was everywhere, the damage to her reputation permanent. "I owe you my life," Daniel said simply, "and I intend to spend the rest of mine proving that I understand what you sacrificed." He offered her a position, not as a maid but as director of community outreach at Thompson Technologies. 6-figure salary, medical insurance for her mother, full scholarships for her siblings. "You saw me when I was invisible," Gloria said through tears. "You were never invisible to me," Daniel replied softly. "I was just too blind to see." Over the next year, gratitude evolved into friendship. Friendship deepened into something neither of them expected, a love built on mutual respect, shared values, and the courage to defy a world that said they didn't belong together. When Daniel proposed at a quiet dinner, just the two of them, no cameras or crowds, Gloria said yes. Not to the billionaire, but to the man who'd learned to truly see her. One kiss, one truth, one woman willing to lose everything to save a life. Gloria's story reminds us, real power isn't about money or status, it's about choosing courage when silence would be easier. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comment where you are watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another beautiful story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want you to miss it for anything.